Evil Ball knockout.
Yeah, and the pressure is really on for these two as well, because basically whoever wins out of the two of these has the highest likelihood of being able to make that, you said, the top 32 cutoff and be able to make it into day 2. And we are rolling, so we're going to see that it looks like Martin's going to go first. Going to start himself off with a Skylar. I imagine off of this he'll probably fetch himself maybe a dive ball to search for a Froakie, and we can see he's already putting the Froakie at the front of his deck as well. So that to me indicates he's probably going to be searching for a dive ball.
Yeah, Skylar is kind of interesting because it's not very played that often. I think before people started playing stuff like Talonflame and Octillery, before Steam Siege even, there were like always like one Skylar in their deck. But now it seems kind of odd because most people play either Octillery or Talonflame. Of course, the Octillery doesn't really help against Garbodor, so people don't really like it that much. And Talonflame only helps when you start with it, so often it's just a card that you can't really use in your deck. But Martin actually decided, he goes for neither of them, and then he needs cards to compensate. And we see he plays Teammates and Skylar. This is one of these. At the beginning of the game, you only need your Froakies. He does play 4 of them. We see one is in the prize cards, paired with 2 of his Greninjas. So his turn 1 is just very slim. Frank, on the other hand, only tests an energy, plays Parasity, and then that's it. But the Parasity might become very huge because now Martin can only play 2 of his Frogadier on his bench when using Water Duplicates.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if Martin actually has access to a stadium. Oh, okay, so he can play the Versus Seeker for the Skyline. He could grab himself the Rough Seas if he really wants to. I mean, another option he has is he could actually... So I think what he's doing here, he's checking to see how many Frogadier he actually has in his deck so that maybe he can decide what's the best way to Water Duplicates from there. Or, oh, no, okay, so instead he goes to the dive ball, searches for the Frogadier, and now, of course, he only has 2 Frogadier left. So even with the Parallel City being out, he can still search for those 2 and bench them.
Yeah, he also, notable is that Martin had an N in his hand, but he decided not to play it. There are 2 reasons for this. One, of course, is that Frank didn't really do anything in his turn besides attacking energy. And the other one is that you don't want to risk drawing Frogadier, so just playing Versus Seeker for Skylar seems kind of like, well, Versus Seeker for Skylar when you don't really get a lot out of it. Seems kind of odd, but of course you don't really want to take the risk of using this. And here Frank is just going... Well, another energy, Evil Ball, it's enough for the knockout, but Martin gets his Frogadier back into his hand.
Yeah, and we see that display, the splash energy really coming in nicely, and we do see that Martin does decide to play the end, so deciding that because now he has the Frogadiers out, then he doesn't mind playing the end because, well, he needs to see more cards to set up and, evolve all of his Greninjas, and if he can do that, then he feels like he'll be in a really comfortable position regardless, so he doesn't mind playing the end here at this point, even if, Frank wasn't doing much of any sort of card draw. I think also on the basis of Frank being able to take that knockout and take a prize, Martin's thinking likelihood is that Frank will have a supporter by next turn.
Yeah, and even if they don't have a supporter, I mean, what is your other game plan? Just pass and end your turn. If Frank has any energy card, he can just attach it, then you Evil Ball for the knockout again. So that's not really an option you have. So at some point you have to play and just to draw cards yourself. And in this position, I would definitely say it's better for Martin to draw cards than for Frank to have a better start in general.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. We see that's Martin is going to play an Ultra Ball, he's going to discard a Froakie and a Water Energy, and he's going to grab himself his first Greninja from that. Of course, this Greninja, the one from Breakpoint, really, shadow stitching, just incredible, and it just 2 great attacks on one Pokemon. The fact that it has free retreat as well, really. It's the whole crux of the deck.
Yeah, also one important thing is, like we already said, there is so much Yveltal Garbodor, and Martin needs to have some kind of trick to win against it. He does not play the promo Greninja, and he also does not play stuff like Beedrill, which we've seen were like the 2 main counters against Yveltal, but he does play 2 Max Potion. He plays the Rust Seas, which is a pretty cool card against Yveltal, and let's see if this is enough to win the matchup, or if Yveltal Garbodor is just too strong.
Yeah, he does also play 2 Enhanced Hammer, so he can use that as well to discard the double colors energies, which again come into huge play because that's going to be the way that Frank really ramps up the damage to be able to do one-hit knockouts on the Greninja breaks, which of course have 170 HP, which is a lot for a not EX Pokemon.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The Enhanced Hammer is very huge in this matchup. A lot of people also played stuff like Stardust Jirachi, but Martin is just... He only plays Froakie and one Staryu from Breakpoint, which has free retreat, so... He will always have the option to go into a turn 2 Water Duplicates as long as he has the Frogadier and the energy card, no matter what happens. That's pretty cool to have, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. See, Frank is playing a Trainer's Mail. I didn't see what he took off of the Trainer's Mail, but did he take anything at all?
I did not really catch it. And one thing I would like to mention is that Martin only has 1 Greninja, So usually when your opponent does not have a Garbodor, okay, never mind, he has a Garbodor. So, but usually if you don't have it, you can use like double break and then knock it out. But that was one problematic thing for Frank because he didn't really get the tool and the Garbodor. But now he has both in the game, so it doesn't really matter that Frank's turn didn't look that explosive because he had the energy for turn every turn, and that was the most important thing in the Evoltal. As long as you have your energies and get the important stuff when you need it, like here, before your opponent is able to use abilities, you have time until your opponent has an actual break into play to set up your Garbodor. So it doesn't really matter that you have a turn 1, turn 2, or turn 3. It only depends on, is your opponent able to play a break next turn? If no, you don't need Garbodor.
Yeah, and but at this point, Martin's going to be in a bit of a spot of bother. I mean, yeah, not being able to, of course, the whole strength of this Greninja deck, as well as obviously you do see there the Max Potion coming into play there quite nicely. But with the whole Giant Water Chokin ability, it's a way you can actually take the knockouts on these big EXs, especially when they've got Fighting Fury belts on. So being denied that from the Garbodor is really what puts this matchup into the Yveltal Garbodor player's favor, generally speaking. But as we mentioned before, Martin does have these tricks that he can use to try and put it back in his favor. He has the Enhanced Hammers, he has the Max Potion, which was really saw really cool use out of there. So Martin's far from out of this game.
Yeah, one other thing to mention is that Frank does not play Enhanced Hammer.
Oh, okay, that's quite interesting. So, of course, we've seen that a lot of the Greninja lists that have been doing well recently have played a very high counter splash energy, and Martin's list is no exception. It plays 4. So, of course, the reason why this has been so good is whenever Greninja gets knocked out, you get to pick up the whole line, put it back in your hand, and then you can just, if you have Froakies and Frogadiers and Greninjas ready on the bench, you can just evolve up to the back line again and make good use out of it. And of course, the Enhanced Hammer stops you from doing that, but since Frank isn't playing it, that means Martin's going to be able to actually get the most use out of those splash energies every single time.
Yeah, especially when you get your Greninja break very early, which Martin in theory had the chance to, but he didn't get the ball to search out his deck for the Greninja break. But when you get the Greninja break early in this situation, for example, you always get the whole break line back. And he even has the dive ball, so it would be perfect for him if he's able to get the Greninja break. But he also might just go for another Greninja because he has to anticipate what Frank is going to do. He might play an Enhanced Hammer, and then it would be very problematic to only go for the break when you don't really have a backup. But Martin is saying, okay, when I get knocked out and get the advantage of the splash energy, he can use the whole thing. He can put Froakie on the bench, evolve Frogadier, evolve Greninja again, and then it's the same board position. Yeah. Just because the splash energy. However, he took it into his hand, so he does not think that Frank is able to take the knockout here, and I think this is the right play. It should be good. Because 1 at 70 HP is really hard to hit when you have no additional energy power from your opponents to use Evo Ball for.
Yeah, definitely, especially given that Frank only has 2 energy on there right now. 170 is almost insurmountable at this point. And also, if Frank did attack into the Greninja break, of course, that bursting balloon means that Frank would just get knocked out right back, which would put him in a really ugly position, because then he's pretty much lost his main attacker at this point in the game, at least. He can, of course, make sure that Yveltal gets on the bench with the Fighting Fury belt and the Dark Energy on it is ready to go for later, but still, that could end up being ugly for him.
Yeah, so Martin's setup looks very decent. Frank has kind of a lot of problems because he wasn't able to kind of, like, usually rush your opponent. Greninja break with just, in general, 80 damage is a lot. And here we see Frank actually just retreating. And I'm a fan of this because you have Garbodor in play. Your bench Pokemon are almost safe unless a Lysander is happening. But most Greninja decks only play 1 Lysander and no Trainer's Mail. So it's very unlikely for them to have the Lysander in the turn they actually need it.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, losing those 2 energy off of the Yveltal is really fine because you just attach another one back on with the Oblivion Wing attack, and you can of course put that instead on the one which is healthy and not, so many HP away from a knockout. And we see the splash energy go back onto the active Greninja break. Martin plays Professor Sycamore, and yeah, we'll see what he gets off of this. Of course, he can, at this point, just Moonlight Slash for a knockout. Like, we'll do 80, and 80 plus the 60 already on it. We'll do 140. It's enough for a knockout, and that looks like that's what he's going to do. So Martin is going to go down to 5 prizes against Frank's 5. So even at this point, going back to Frank now, and yeah, Frank has a variety of options here right now. He's got 3 different Yveltals. Only one of them is able to attack, but of course he could just try and maybe get another Yveltal out, non-EX, I mean.
Yeah, it seems very hard at this point. Martin has a lot of stuff going on this board, and Frank has a lot of problems. He does have double color energy, he does have Floatstone in his hand, but everything else doesn't really look great. So will be interesting to see which decision he goes for. It's very hard to tell. It seems like he's just going like for the two-hit knockout with Evo Ball and then setting up a bench Pokemon. But I think Frank really has to utilize stuff like N and just hope that Martin doesn't get what he wants at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's funny as well because you think to yourself that, with the Greninja break is the ability being shut off, that, the damage output would just, not be enough. But of course, if Frank is limited on energy attachments because every single time, the knockout is building up and he's forced to retreat into something else, then eventually all that Moonlight Slash damage is going to add up to the point where actually it's too much for Frank, especially considering that the damage that Frank is doing back to Martin is being healed off by Max Potion.
Yes, especially when he happens to draw into it. He only has one left, as far as I know. There might have been one that happened to be discarded. He can even play Versus Seeker for Skylar and then grab it out of his deck if he really wants to. But it seems like he's just going to go for the benched Pokemon and just use the attack for 80 damage again. Now he has Bursting Balloon active. Frank, if he decides to go for a Lysander, I do not think that this is enough for the knockout as it looks like right now. Oh, it actually would be perfectly the exact 170, but still that would mean you waste a lot of stuff, and Frank's hand doesn't really look that great.
Well, no, I mean, Frank's not doing much of anything right now. We saw in the last turn, maybe just attached an energy and then attacked with a Evil Ball, and right now it's just... Okay, so you see he's going to put double colours on the bench of Yveltal EX, so he's obviously wanting to charge it up, so again he has something to follow up with later, and he knows as well that this Yveltal EX in the active is not going anywhere, at least not for the next turn, because Martin's abilities are still shut off, so he's capped at maximum of 80 damage per turn.
Yeah, this is true. He just attached the Flash Energy again, and it will be... Well, I don't think that he will keep the energy active as he just does. Just 80 damage is fine here. He has a Bursting Balloon, so if Frank attacks the active one, he will just get knocked out. This is a big problem, and I don't really see Frank winning this game.
Yeah, because that's the exact thing. He's no risk in terms of taking back the energy to his hand, because he just knows that not only is that making him actually less likely to get KO'd, because of course the more energy that you have on, the more damage that Evil Ball does, but at the same time, because he's already at full health and he knows where all of Frank's energy attachments are coming from, then there's just no way that Frank get enough energy on an Yveltal to one-hit knockout on the Greninja, so he's completely safe in taking that energy back to his hand and doing the full 80 with Moonlight Slash rather than the 60.
Yes, but Frank is playing very tactical and very smart here, just retreating again because of the Galdor, of course. His bench Pokemon are safe unless the opponent plays Lysander. Just putting Shaman active, he can use Sky Turn to put it into his hand again, get rid of the damage. If he happens to draw into his second Shaman EX, he can do some kind of loop, which in the long run usually doesn't really pay out because Greninja plays 4N and often an Ace Trainer, so you can't really take all the prize cards with your Shaman, and at some point your opponent will also just have a Lysander. But this is just a very good temporary solution for a big problem.
Yeah, and I think right now that's what Frank needs, because as we saw, he's not drawing much of anything right now. He's really just playing one or two cards a turn, just not really. And you see there, he brings up the Yveltal who was charging up earlier, and he's probably going to... I mean, I would say White Cyclone here, but then what's he going to attach to? No, yeah, exactly, because I mean, White Cyclone does more damage, but pretty much anything he puts an energy onto is either not useful or just a risk, because it can end up being knocked out by Lysander.
Yeah, this is true, and it's still like none of these players have drawn a lot of prize cards, and in general it's just not very great. Martin has a huge hand, and he has a lot of options, but he doesn't really need anything. He's just like, okay, Moonlight Slash, have fun. And then Frank is, I don't really have anything, so let's see what I can do. But now almost every of his Pokemon has a lot of damage, so at some point he really needs to draw something, otherwise he would just lose.
Yeah, and it looks like that something is not really coming to him right now. You see he's got another energy to attach, so he's really debating where to put this, because right now none of those Yveltals are safe to put energy on. You've got the one with 80 damage on the active, you've got both the bench ones which have 160.
Yeah, and he even benched the Trubbish, which is not really what he wants to see, because like he even plays 4 Yveltal EX for these kind of situations, but the last one is in his prize cards. So unfortunately he's kind of out of options.
Yeah, at this point, actually the active, which he just attached there, is the safest one, because he knows that can't be knocked out by Moonlight Slash, because that'll do 80, and that means it'll only go up to 160, which of course it won't be enough for a knockout. Yeah,
this is true. And Martin is just chilling there, like, he doesn't really need to move. And now is finally the one turn where he can just let his energy being attached, and then he gets knocked out and can get use of it. And Frank, we see a supporter card. I think he is happy about it, but he also knows that it's kind of late at this point.
Yeah, because he's just got too much damage on too many things. And if Martin can somehow with one turn find a way to Lysander the Guilbert or hit it and then Lysander and hit it again, then there's just so many different things that Martin at that point can then just water shuriken to just take the win.
Yeah, but I don't even think that you want to get the Guilbert active when you happen to find a Lysander in this situation already, because you can just Lysander the damaged Evital and then don't take the risk of your opponent having a second Guilbert out. So Lysander will be important, but only for the last two prize cards, especially because Frank is kind of forced to put energies on the benched Evital EX, which only has 50 HP left. So that's a one-hit knockout for as long as Martin has an energy.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. The one problem that Martin will have is that if he wants to take a knockout with the Greninja, he will need to return the energy to his hand, so he won't be able to do the same play last turn where he just did Moonlight Slash for 60 but kept the energy on, because he needs to do the full 80 to take the knockout.
No, he can take the knockout just without... It's enough damage for the active Evital because it does not have a Fighting Fury belt.
Yeah, I was thinking of the two bench ones.
Yes, it's true. But it's very hard. I don't really see Frank winning here, and I'm wondering, because usually in this situation players are just packing the stuff up, but Frank's one option is just play N, and then your opponent doesn't have all he needs, because Greninja without Artillery and without Talonflame is very, very dependent on just drawing your cards you need. So an N is very huge, and also you don't... If you look at Martin's hand, just look how many hand cards he has. He has so many cards on his hand. So an N will hurt him a lot, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And we see that he's opting to attack with the Greninja rather than the Greninja Break, wanting to conserve the Greninja Break for maybe following up with an attack later. And I think Martin's debating whether to... Yeah, because at this point he can just, as you said, because there's no Fighting Fury belt, not take the energy back, but it looks like he's deciding to anyway. Yeah,
because the reason he retreats is because the Greninja Break only has 90 HP left. But the active one has 130 HP left, so he just does not want his opponent to take a knockout this turn. And by returning the energy, he makes sure that that it's very, very unlikely for Frank to get the knockout here. He would need a double colors energy card, and I think Max Elixir at least one of them. Let's see, he has one energy attached already. That's 50 damage right now. So he needs 80 additionally damage. So 2 Max Elixirs and a double colors energy card. After this enhanced hammer, it's just not going to happen, I think.
Yeah, Martin playing this very, very well, playing very tactfully, just, you know, not doing anything extremely flashy, but just doing enough to put enough pressure on Frank to make it so that he's forced into a very awkward position.
Yeah, I really like how he plays. He doesn't play supporter cards for like the last 6 turns or something. Just Moonlight Slash, and it's always enough. So he doesn't really need to play it. A lot of people feel like the pressure to play supporter every single turn, because you can only play one supporter each turn, and they are very good. So you want to have the maximum amount of supporters played during the whole game. However, that's not how the game works. It's just like a guideline. Supporters in general are good to play, but it doesn't really win you the game just by playing a lot of supporter cards. What wins you the game is taking your prize cards, and I think Martin is on the best way to taking these. However, his hand, like we anticipated, doesn't really look great after this N.
Yeah, we see that an Evil Ball comes out from Frank. Martin's going to take his draw. He does see a Dive Ball off of the N, so he's going to be able to get himself another Greninja, which would be nice for him. And I didn't see if Martin drew a supporter or a Versa Seeker off of the end, but obviously if he did, then really at this point he's just digging for a water energy or a splash energy.
Yeah, of course. He does have an N. He also has a bursting balloon, so he basically, yeah, like I already said, he just needs an energy card. So he just needs to draw it somehow, and then if he doesn't get it, I think he would just retreat into the Greninja that doesn't have damage, or onto the Froakie. I don't really know, but since he attached the bursting balloon just onto the bench Greninja, he's either attaching it there, so he can attack with it if he happens to draw the energy, so you would retreat into the Greninja without the damage again. The same reason like we had last turn, or if he doesn't get the energy, he would just retreat to Froakie and put it active. But he does have the energy, and he is able to attach it to the Greninja for kind of like the perfect turn here. And now again, he doesn't need to take the energy into his hand. And I don't really think that he does it at this point, because now, if he just has an energy, he still has bench Greninjas left, so it doesn't really matter if the active one gets knocked out, he needs an energy somehow, and if it doesn't get knocked out, he has the energy already, so he wins. And here we see Martin Guilbert taking the first game kind of weird game, to be very honest.
Yeah, really. We saw there that Martin just employing a very interesting sort of alternative strategy, just putting, like we said before, just enough pressure on with these moonlight slashes, even under Garbodor, to make it to the point. And obviously, it wasn't helped by the fact that Frank wasn't drawing very well. He was forced to keep retreating. He couldn't just set up his attackers. He couldn't get enough energy on board to take knockouts, and that's why that strategy worked for Martin. Martin recognized an opportunity there to exploit, and he did it, and it won him the game.
Yeah, one thing I like to talk about is Martin's list, which, if you look at it just a vacuum, I would say, it looks super. It doesn't really look great, to be honest, because you have 5 water energy cards and so many weird stuff in there. But when you think about it, which decks are being played? You have Rainbow Force, which uses double colors energy cards, and a very big part of their strategy. Then you have Yveltal Garbodor, and Yveltal Garbodor, like almost every second game he will play against Yveltal Garbodor. So his deck is just using the splash energy because he knows he cannot use abilities anyways. So many decks play Garbodor. Like not a lot of different decks play Garbodor, but a lot of people have Garbodor in their deck. So you will play against it very often. So you don't really need that many water energies to keep up the whole Giant Water Shuriken, because you can't use Giant Water Shuriken anyways. And in the games where you actually want to use Giant Water Shuriken where your opponent doesn't play Garbodor, which deck are these? You have Rainbow Forest Xerneas, where he has his Enhanced Hammers, and against every deck that doesn't have Garbodor, he can also use Starmie just to get the energies back whenever he needs them. So I really like this deck list in this metagame.
Yeah, sometimes it's not always necessarily about, because it's very easy to want to build a list for a deck that's the best in a vacuum, but a tournament isn't a vacuum. Like, you have to sometimes adapt what you're playing based on what you know will be around. And this Martin's list of Greninja is a perfect example of this, and that's why he's right here, fighting out to potentially make day 2 of the international championships.
Yeah, this is true, but on the other hand, we have Frank Diaz, who's just like, he knows he's a very good player, and because of this, he can just play Yveltal. He will play a lot of mirror matches, but Yveltal mirror match is one of these mirror matches where usually the better player ends up winning, or one who has a lot of luck. So the mirror match you will most likely win, and then it's very hard to play against Garbodor and stuff when you can't really predict your opponent if you don't play good yourself. Because you know what is the best play my opponent can make from his standpoint. When you play against decks like Rainbow Force, the best play my opponent can do is knock me out. But here there are so much things going on, 2-hit knockouts, using Fright Knight, using the X and Y Yveltal. So it's hard to predict your opponent, so this makes it hard in general to play against the deck. Yeah, we are just into the game. Frank, of course, is starting, and both prize cards look just very normal.
Fine.
There's nothing heartbreaking here. Martin, of course, starting with a Froakie. What else is he going to start with? The only other option is one Staryu.
It's really cool that the Staryu from Breakpoint has free retreat. Actually,
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a weird coincidence that it just perfectly fits into this deck.
Yeah, and it's funny, Starmie isn't a card that we've seen a lot this weekend, but mainly because of the presence of Garbodor. But just, again, on its own, it's just really strong. Being able to get back 2 water energies from your discard pile, especially in a list like Martin's, where there's a lower count of basic energy, is really vital in those matchups where you do need more water shurikens to be able to do that.
Yes, and I also really like how fast Frank is just playing from just like physically handling his cards. He plays Max Elixir, he looks at 2 cards, there is an energy, he just attaches it immediately and goes shuffle into his deck. He knows he doesn't really have a lot of time left, and because he knows this is like a day 2 tournament, so when he ends up in the top 32, he needs his match points. So if he can make like a game that he would usually lose into a tie, that's great. But if you can then win another game and make this game that you would normally lose into a win, this is amazing. So you have to play very fast, and it's very hard to keep thinking about what you're doing, to keep trying to predict your opponent, keep track of your prize cards, keep track of everything while having a very fast pace.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a sort of hallmark of a really good player, because the faster you play, obviously, the more likely you are to miss things, the more likely you are to make mistakes. But at the same time, if you can keep up that fast pace of play, and keep your mistakes level to such a low point where playing fast doesn't impact you, then that's going to put you in such good stead, especially in these Swiss rounds where you have 50 minutes to play a best of 3 series, where games can sometimes often take 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, this is true. So actually finishing 3 games is really hard, especially when you're... What I always like to remind people of is that shuffling frequently is what makes decks slow. Night March seemed like, for example, the Night March deck we had in the last format seemed like a very fast deck, but the games took so much time because you played so many Trainer Mail, you played so many Battle Compressor, that you were constantly having your deck in your head and shuffling.
Yeah, it's that turn one where you're just playing, you know, all these.
It doesn't matter how fast in terms of turns you can finish your game. It matters how fast in terms of time you can finish your game, and this is also where. The Evitar decks have kind of an advantage. Like, because of the Max Elixir and Trainer Mail, you have to shuffle a lot, but it's still not that much like you have in decks in the past.
Yeah, definitely. It's if you sort of put a side-by-side comparison, then maybe the Night March turn ones would sometimes take 10 minutes, so sometimes even 15 if it was really, really bad. But with Veltal, it's normally not much longer than, say, 3 to 5 minutes. It's a big difference. Yeah. And over the course of a best of 3 series, it adds up. Yeah,
going back to the game, Martin had the bubble tails, so I don't really think it mattered yet. Now that he evolved, it had not mattered anyways. And there is a double colors and to Trubbish, now Garbodor, which isn't that cool, but Frank is able to take a knockout on Evil Ball, and now Martin just needs an energy and a Frogadier, which he has in his hand, so a very decent turn for him. Frank also gets rid of his own Parasity by playing the Reverse Valley, which I think is the best play you can do here, because he knows he needs to knock out the Froakie anyways, and then Martin's bench is free, so then he can water duplicates for 3 Pokemon anyways. So getting rid of the Parasity is just an advantage for Frank, because now he deals 10 more damage, which is important because the amount of HP the Greninjas have is all uneven. So without the Fighting Fury Belt, the Reverse Valley is very important.
Yeah, definitely. And we see there, of course, Martin not having, as we said before, the prizes are particularly unremarkable this time, and no Frogadiers are prized, so Martin going to get the full complement of 3 of them, which is great news for him. And of course that Splash Energy on the active means that once that active Frogadier inevitably gets knocked out, of course the Froakie and the Frogadier will go back to his hand, and he can just bench that Froakie right down, and then next turn evolve it back.
Yeah, but this game for Frank looks like the normal matchup, because he took 2 prize cards now, without Martin having any Greninja in play at all. And now it's again on Martin's turn to apply pressure back here. He needs a Greninja now. He needs more than 1 Greninja to get the break into play at some point of the game. And Frank has 4 energies attached to his Evital EX, so that's a lot of damage.
It is, and it's bad news for Martin really, because he doesn't have that same opening he had last time to exploit, Frank's poor draws to be able to just do constant Moonlight Slashes, and instead he's still going to go for that, so he did a Moonlight Slash for 80, but yeah, Frank has already got 4 energy on this Yveltal. Another double colorless means they can actually just knock out this Greninja outright.
Yeah, but because of the stadium, I think only 1 energy is again alright, because he has 5 energies, that's 100 damage plus 20 from the Evil Ball, and then plus 10 from the stadium, so that's 130 damage. Any energy will get the knockout for Frank.
Wow, yeah.
So this is amazing. He can also attach, he find an energy on his Max Elixir, so he can prepare his benched Evital, and because Martin didn't get another Greninja, he will have a lot of troubles, and this is, I think, what Frank is going forward, was looking forward for going into this tournament, knowing that his Gauntlet is just shutting down the important stuff later, so forcing the opponent to apply pressure early on, which is not very likely, to be honest.
Yeah, when it comes to this point, and we see that Frank has just very well set up this active Yveltal to do a load of damage, then this is when the Greninja player really needs the giant water shurikens just to keep up. And Martin's just not going to be afforded that luxury. He didn't get another Greninja out, so as soon as this Greninja goes down, then we see there Martin counting the energy. Yeah, it is enough with the Reverse Valley. And yeah, Martin, unless does he even play Wally? Because if he doesn't, then he has no way of getting, he doesn't play Wally, so there's no way of him getting a Greninja out this turn, or at least a Greninja break. But seemingly, I think he's just opted to go for Froakie and Bubble.
Bubble is such a good attack.
It is.
Everyone underestimates it, but it doesn't really look like Martin has a lot. At this point, I might actually even think about just conceding the game when I'm Martin, because it doesn't look like you're going to win, and there is only 20 minutes left. So, like, the first game took almost 20 minutes, and if the second game also takes about 10 minutes even, then the third game will most likely end up in a tie. So, and if it does not end up in a tie, Frank is more likely to win, because he's the faster deck.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
for Martin, I think it would make a lot of sense to concede, but he got a Professor Sycamore, so I think he would try his luck with using bubble first.
Yeah, and maybe we might see him go to game 3 if this bubble fails, because then Frank is going to take another knockout. He's only 2 prize cards away from winning, and maybe at that point Martin will think that maybe it's just worth me stopping at this point. But we do see there the bubble, and it is a heads. Okay, so really good news for Martin there. Means he's gonna buy himself another turn to get those Greninjas out, and maybe even evolve this Roki into Frogadier and start evolving that one later as well.
Yeah, the one thing I don't like about this is just that Marty doesn't have any Greninja in play. So the bubble didn't really put him forward. It just got him one extra turn that he really needed, but he couldn't make use out of it. So he will need, most likely, will even need another head to actually get Greninja breaks into play before getting knocked out.
Yeah, it's quite unlucky because, of course, even if next turn he sees Greninjas and evolves those, at this point there's just so many energy on the active Yveltal EX that they'll just get knocked out straight away.
Yeah, and I think Frank is just looking forward to draw his one of his 2 escape ropes, which would be a double trouble for Martin because the bursting balloon is now on the bench, so it doesn't really help, and Frank also gets rid of the special condition. So yeah, I think Frank is just trying to get the escape rope here, but he also needs to think about what happens if he doesn't get it. So we see Professor Sycamore. Let's take a quick look at his hand. Unfortunately, we are able to see it.
I think it might have been the first card he drew. Oh no, we see a Trainer's Mail.
Trainer's Mail might give him the option now, and if he doesn't get it, he will... Oh, he even got it. So yeah, escape rope, just a great card. I saw a lot of great Greninja players attaching their their bursting balloons just on benched Pokemon in general. So whenever their opponent plays escape rope, they can put like a Froakie with a bursting balloon active. But I didn't even think we saw an escape rope in the first game. So I think Martin wasn't even aware that Frank plays it because it's not played that often. Like most people play either one escape rope. Some people play Switch. Even a lot of people play Olympia to have the option to Versus Seeker for it. But Frank plays 2 escape rope. So that was very likely for Frank's end, and it really turned out good for him. But I think this is a turn where Martin should just pack up his stuff and go into game 3.
Yeah, escape rope is... I found that in a lot of decks that when you normally want to end up switching, just the added ability to be able to just push something active out of the way, especially it's just the really great players can make really great use out of it, and it's why you see escape rope in a lot of the top lists, because it gives you that versatility to be able to do something like this and just have a monster turn, even just off of 1 card essentially.
Yeah, this is true. Also, considering there are cards like Jolteon EX, which can be outplayed by escape rope, and just in general, your opponent chooses first and then you choose, so you can react to everything. Especially with an Yveltal deck where you usually have a lot of options, you can make a big use out of it with your Fright Knight because of stuff like escape rope. A lot of people just put Volcanion with Floatstone active when they are forced to switch with escape rope, and then you can use your Fright Knight. But if they don't do it, you have the option to use Yveltal. So you're at the bigger end of the level. So here, definitely while playing escape rope.
Yeah, it reminds me of a little bit of earlier we had Takuya Yoneda on stream, and he promoted that Volcanion with the Floatstone and then Lysandered a Fright Knight Yveltal and realized he couldn't retreat, which was a little bit of an awkward situation.
Yeah, it's also a cool card when you play against an unexperienced player because they don't really see that stuff coming often. So either your opponent is just like... I mean, of course, at tournaments, a lot of people are just tired in general and do very, very silly things or just forgot important stuff, and then Escape was just a great card to make use of this. So when you're a player who is able to keep the energy at these tournaments until the end of the day, you can have big news out of this. And now Martin is just having his last reserves. Yes, Enhance Hammer, please don't knock me out. But if he does, at least he can finally go into game 3 and save his time, I think.
Yeah, and we'll see what Frank Edge opts to do here. Another Max Elixir being played. Is he going to hit an energy off this? Looks like that's a yes. So, let's see. So currently the Evil Ball will be doing 80 damage plus 10 for the reverse value, so it's 90. So a double colorless would be enough to get a knockout here again. But at the same time, obviously attacking into a bursting balloon would mean that the Yveltal EX gets knocked out right back, but
that doesn't really matter. There's just Froakie is not that dangerous. And here we see Professor Sycamore, he just needs a double colorless energy card. But even stuff like an escape rope would put him in a very great position because he can just take the next knockout, and he only has 2 prize cards left. So
And there
Yeah,
it
here we
is.
see the escape rope. I think he would just. I personally would attack with the one with the damage, but I don't really know what is a better play here.
Yeah. Also, you said Froakie isn't that dangerous. I don't know, man. You said it yourself. Bubble, it's devastating.
Bubble is just a great attack. I really love it.
Yeah. So Frank deciding, despite it's great to see this, despite being so far ahead, really just sort of still thinking whether this could actually make a big difference, and just making sure that he's attacking with the right one, making sure he does everything else properly, like attaching float stones to shamans.
Yeah, I mean the reason why I would think about putting the one with the damage active is because when it gets knocked out, the ends from your opponent are less good in general because he will draw less cards.
Yeah.
And at this point of the game, he really needs to play end to just have a chance of coming back. But of course, when you attack with the one with a lot of energies, you force the opponent to do something, maybe even play Lysander Shaman and then just pass your turn. So a lot of things going on there. I do not know which play is the better one, but I'm very certain Frank does.
Yeah, and we will see there that Martin is attaching a water engine, a bursting balloon to his active Greninja. Does he have? It looks like he does have an end. Yeah, so he's debating playing that. And I mean, really, I guess he has to, but at the same time, it doesn't really do much for him. No, in fact, he's going for a Skylar instead.
Yeah, this is like I don't really like to call it a safe play, but this is like kind of he needs a Greninja break. So if he plays N, he needs to draw the Greninja break out of the N. But he also wants to play N to put the opponent back because he only needs, I think, a double Colors Energy card to finish off this game. So yeah, I don't really know what to think about this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange situation, to be honest. We see that Martin is going to go for the Moonlight Slash for 80 damage. The play is going to pass back to Frank. And yeah, at this point, he just wants to see a double colors. He just wants to get that Greninja out of here and just move on to game 3.
Yeah, but let's see what's going to happen. Yeah, another thing that Frank could have did last turn, if he attacked with the damage bond, to just choose White Cyclone to move the energy to the bench Pokemon, which is now active. And then he would only need one basic energy to finish off this game. So as you can see, there isn't really like an obvious right play. There are always advantages of this play, there are advantages of this play, but to trade off which is the best, this is what the players shine, and this is why the Ivatar deck is just also it's so popular under good players, I would say.
Yeah.
Because there are just so many great plays you can do with it.
Yeah. Also, a double colored energy would actually not be enough. It would be 10 short right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you think about it, you got the 5 with the Yveltal, that's 100, another 10 for the Fury Belt, another 10 for the Reverse Valley, that's 120, an extra double colors energy would only make it 160.
Oh, this is true. I'm sorry for this. Yeah, so here we see the N, but there is still not that much going on. So Frank did just pass his turn, if I saw that right?
Yes, he did, because he didn't want to attack into the bursting balloon.
Yeah, this is very good, I think. But it's also, I mean, he outplays Max Potion this way, because in general, when you don't know your opponent plays Max Potion, you can just attack, and then you know, well, if he knocks me out, I have the bench one anyways. But if you have this kind of situation, you know, your opponent plays Max Potion, so when he attacks into a bursting balloon, then your opponent gets rid of the damage, and then attacks again. Ouch.
Yeah, there's basically 2 incentives to not attack at that point, so it just makes it, you know, so that not attacking is the only sensible option.
Yeah, but because he wasn't able to get the knockout anyways, so now Frank again has the option to attack now, because now there is no disadvantage, there's no bursting balloon, so he can start taking the 2-hit knockout, and also I think he has a lot of energies on his bench Pokemon, so he can even just Wise Cycle and put an energy back and then later attach another energy to finish off the game.
Yeah, and I think that makes the most sense as well, because again, that plays around Max Potion. If he does Wise Cyclone, you can put an energy on the other Yveltal, then regardless of a Max Potion happening, that Yveltal on the bench is more likely to be able to get a 1-hit knockout on the Greninja break.
Yeah. So if a bit of thinking, you have to consider, do you use Wise Cyclone or Evo Ball? But I don't think there is anything more going on here in this situation.
Definitely not. And you see there, Frank's still thinking about it, really mulling this over, and it looks like he's going to go for the Wise Cyclone. Like, he's got the energy in his hand. But interesting, so he's opted to move it to the Shaman instead of the Yveltal. Maybe thinking about going for a Sky Return, perhaps?
Yeah, with Sky Return you can also kind of outplay your opponent's bursting balloons. But at this point I don't really see Martin winning this game here.
Well, no, I mean, it would be, I mean, Greninja is known as the comeback deck, but with only 1 Greninja break on the field with 110 damage and 6 prize cards left to take, I think even this kind of comeback might be a bit too much to ask for.
Yeah, one thing I would like to ask is how many deck cards Frank has left, because Bubble deck out is actually a thing. It's very sad to admit, but I've seen people, actually, I decked out a guy who had 7 deck cards left just with bubble. So everything is possible with this, and of course it also takes a lot of time. And in theory, Martin, I don't really think he can stall out 10 minutes, but he can definitely stall out enough time to... Well, but here we see the conceding. And it's a 1-1. Very interesting game so far, and a lot of cool stuff going on, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And, well, I mean, the pressure's on really both of them now because they know that they don't have much time left, and they really, really want one of them to walk away with a win here. So they're going to probably be playing even faster than they were that game, because we saw Frank especially was just, cards all over the place. But yeah, they're going to have to do that if they want to make it through and actually finish the last game in this 10 minutes that we have left. So at this point, let's think about what Martin needs to do. Martin just lost. He's going to go first here. How does he put himself in a situation where he can actually win in 10 minutes? Because it just seems like such a hard...
very unlikely, yes. The only way that he can do this is if Frank is not able to get the Gauder out, I think. I'm very sure that there is no way for Martin to win otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, the only options he has is Frank doesn't really have anything in general, or he doesn't have the Garbodor and he can use the giant water shurikens. But let's see what's going to happen here. They're shuffling a bit, so I think they have 8 minutes in total to finish off the game. But yeah, it's just very problematic.
It is. So then, let me ask you, David. So if you were to be playing in this tournament today, obviously you're an accomplished player yourself, what would you be playing?
I already talked about this a lot, and I would have played Yveltal Garbodor. It's just a very good deck. You can deny your opponent a lot of stuff, and you have so many things you need to calculate. The only thing I wouldn't like, because I didn't really test that much with Yveltal Garbodor, so I would have needed to play a lot of decks, to play a lot of matchups with this. But the great thing is when you have the feeling that Yveltal Garbodor is going to be like one of the best decks at this tournament in all. So you just build your Yveltal Garbodor, play against a lot of decks, kind of tweak your list so it fits your own desires, and you can spend a lot of time of practicing playing it. So often you kind of try to find out what is the best deck, but from the last results from Regionals, it was kind of clear that Yveltal Garbodor is one of the best decks in general.
Definitely. So we see that we're going into Game 3 now, and Martin has started with that Staryu we talked about earlier. So as we said, it does have free retreat, which is absolutely brilliant. It means that as soon as Martin just gets Froakie down, he can just retreat into it without having to even attach an energy to the active Staryu. So even if he was to go second, he'd still be able to say Bubble, for example. But of course, he is going first, so not really making a difference.
Staryu is also to use Smack for 20 damage, in theory. So if you happen to have like only Froakie in play and your opponent's like, now I knock you out, but in theory you can use Smack to deal damage, but I don't really think that's very likely. However, this is not looking great.
No.
In theory, Frank can win this turn. I don't really think this is going to happen, but of course he just needs an energy, a Max Elixir and a Floatstone, or Escape Rope.
Oh, if you're Frank here, you've got to be licking your chops a little bit.
What he can also do is just the Yveltal and then attach a Fighting Through Belt. I mean the X and Y Yveltal. But actually a lot of things that he can do in theory to win the first turn. But he actually goes for Hooper EX, and Hooper EX is a very uncommon card for Yveltal decks. Usually they don't really like playing Hooper because it's only good in the very, very first turn. However, he plays 4 Yveltal EX, so I think in the mirror match it kind of does a big difference because he doesn't really need Garbodor that much. And here we see him just grabbing 2 Shaymin. Yeah. I think he is trading off if it makes sense to try to win this turn.
Yes, he just wants to just draw as many cards as possible this turn to maximize his chances
and
of
also
being
if he has a double colorless energy card, he can try to use Sky Return for the knockout, because Staryu only has 40 HP, so when he has Fighting Through Belt, he can use a double colorless energy card. Now he has to think about which order he has to play his card in, and it will be very important.
Yeah, so we do see that he draws the Reverse Valley. This opens up another method for him to take the knockout here. What he could do is, if he plays the Oblivion Wing Yveltal, he can just attach a Dark Energy to that and use with the Reverse Valley. That's 40 there as well. There's a lot of different options Frank can actually use to win this turn. It's a little bit crazy to think about, and I think he's just trying to decide which one is the most likely and which ones can I actually go for.
Yeah, and also which is a less risky one if it doesn't turn out.
Yes,
so
this is very important as well.
He could just go very aggressive on like trying to get Evil Ball off. And here we see double colorless energy, so now he kind of forced himself into the Max Elixir Floatstone option. He does have a Floatstone, he just needs the Max Elixir with an energy card. And I'm kind of thrilled to see it. I kind of want to see it, but I also don't want to see it. Don't show me the Max Elixir. I want to see a game here, not the turn 1 knockout.
I was gonna say this could be big.
Yeah, he does have N, but he also had a Sycamore, but he decided not to play it.
Yeah,
because you also need to think about what happens if he doesn't see the draw the Elixir.
Yeah, again, it's a trade-off. It's like, how willing are you to go for this play? And I think he's just deciding, you know what, at this point, the N still draws me 6 cards, and like that N also, it means if I do miss it, then it's fine. You know, I'm not going to lose a ton of resources from it.
Yeah, he also does have. I mean, the only problem I see is now that his bench is full. It's actually kind of weird, but he knows it's a tie anyways if he doesn't win.
Yeah, so he has to go for it.
Fast.
And to be honest, using that argument, you could just say it might be better to actually just go for the Sycamore. There's the Max Elixir.
Here we see the Max Elixir.
Oh my god.
This is going to be huge. He also has an Ultra Ball, so...
Okay. So can we get a drum roll, please?
I can see him just playing the Ultra Ball, get his maximum chances, and then just YOLO.
Yeah, I could not have put it better myself.
Yeah, This is like the last few seconds of the game, because you know they're gonna be the last few seconds.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is edge of the seat Pokemon trading card game action.
Yeah, it's going to be important. I'm crossing my fingers here, and I want this to happen as much as I don't want this to happen. So
yeah.
if you just tuned in and don't know the situation, Frank only needs to hit his Max Elixir to win the game. So basically what he's going to do, he shuffles his deck, then shows to his opponent the cards. His opponent is allowed to shuffle the deck. Then he looks at the top 6 cards of his deck, and then he either wins or... Yeah. Well, he can just continue, and it's worst case scenario, it's a tie, I think.
I think it's safe to say this is the most important Max Elixir.
Oh,
he gets it!
This is great. So, amazing game here. If I'm allowed to say this, it was... You can see how happy it is. It's great to see. Yeah.